Tomorrow and Saturday, Old Fort Niagara is hosting an event focusing on French heritage.
Hanai Weber is here to talk about at the historic site. Hanai, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so what is happening at this place?
This I guess, sort of weekend, tomorrow and Saturday, we are going to be celebrating the French heritage of this area. Most people don't know that the French were the first Europeans to come to the Niagara region. And so we're going to be talking about that history, not only what did the French do when they were here, but also exploring some 18th century French culture, which is kind of cool.
It is such a beautiful area up there at Fort Niagara. Before we talk a little bit more about the French culture event that you guys are having, talk a little bit about just the beauty up there. We were talking about it before we were coming back from commercial. You could see it right there, and especially with the weather being as nice as it is, folks can learn so much at Fort Niagara, but they can also just enjoy themselves in the beautiful scenery.
I'm probably biased, but I think we have the best view of Lake Ontario in New York, honestly. We also feature the oldest standing structure in the Great Lakes, which is kind of cool, and that was built by the French military. So not only can you see our beautiful view, but you can also see the oldest still standing building in our region, which is really neat.
And you guys do, and we've got some video here, still do reenactments and everything. Those are not happening this weekend, but you still do them occasionally throughout the year.
Yes, and we will have a number of volunteers tomorrow who are in historic dress talking about various things, which is kind of a neat facet as well. These are programs we don't do every day.
What does, when you think of history, it's fascinating in itself, but when you have the presentations, people dressed up and they really know the stuff, what does that mean for the education for people who come to visit?
There's something about learning by doing things that changes it a little bit. And so for us, we like to do that sort of immersive learning where you can get your hands on things, you can smell things, you can touch things, you can see things the way that they would have looked historically instead of just in a history book or in a painting or something like that.
You guys do such a good job of bringing history to life, and that really is such a great educational way to receive information. And speaking of which, you brought some artifacts and some items here. Tell us a little bit about these and how they connect to this weekend.
Yeah, so you cannot talk about the French in the Great Lakes without talking about the fur trade. So we're going to be doing a lot of fur trade things. I've got some different pelts of animals that were captured for the fur trade historically. I've also got a paddle here, which is painted. Each voyageur or French-Canadian man who paddled a canoe during the fur trade would paint his paddle uniquely to tell it apart from the other ones. We are going to be doing kind of a lot of cooking both tomorrow and Saturday. So you can see some 18th century French recipes, some of which are very familiar, others of which are going to be very, very different. So I brought our favorite fish plate here, which is a replica of an 18th century one. Nice. And then finally, I'm going to be personally leading an activity this weekend looking at French women's clothing. What makes it distinct? How, when you look at a picture in the 18th century, can you tell that that is a French woman and not a woman from somewhere else?
I had to show the dish because it looks really neat.
It's super cool
to see it. You mentioned some of the recipes. Can you give us maybe one or two of your favorites?
I think that this weekend they'll probably be making a ham, which we make a really nice ham that gets cooked with lots of spices and sometimes a little bit of wine as well, which is always nice. And then almost certainly we'll also be having a soldier stew, which is salted meats with peas and sometimes sausage. We'll have bread with lots of different kinds of spreads, all sorts of things like that.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, so if you are to go this weekend, give us the times and where people need to be.
Yes, so we will be open tomorrow. This event will be happening tomorrow from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. We'll be open until 4 o'clock, but that's when this main program is happening. And then on Saturday, we're going to have the program running from 10 a.m. until we close at 4 p.m.
Always awesome to stop by that way. But even the weather now, we were talking about it before, it is the perfect time to go. If you are interested, we'll have all the information up on our website, WIVB.com. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.